are crazy Camellia's biggest pros and cons. That's what I'm here to tell you today. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. First off, her damage potential is going to be utterly incredible. If you're looking for a strong main DPS to kick off your account, or if you've got a solid roster already and are looking for a significant upgrade over what you've already got, then Camellya is certainly an excellent choice. She may end up being the new highest ceiling for dealing the highest amount of damage in Wuthering Waves. Right now, the best DPS in the game across the board in all aspects would be Jinshi. Camellya may have numbers which rivals Jinshi's. Even on a 4-star weapon with mediocre echoes, you can expect a wonderful experience when it comes to clearing hard endgame content. And if you choose to go the extra mile, investing in her main sword, then oh boy are you in for a good time. Right now, with enough skill, even the worst DPSs can clear if you're good enough. Now imagine how you'll wipe the floor with a unit that possesses the wild amount of potential that Camellya does. Since only one of her 5-star DPS matches her power level at the minute, she'll be relevant for quite some time on your account as well, whether that be to face situations that favor her abilities, or because Tower of Adversity wants you to have 3 teams. I can see her lasting for quite a while. We need one other insanely OP DPS to complete the trio. And Camellya is also the first limited 5-star Havoc damage dealer. She's highly popular too, so I can see her being a strong choice for quite a long time. It's certainly the best quality she offers. Damage and a lot of it. I think you get the idea by this stage. Not only does she do a whole lot of it, but she does it in a wide AoE as well. This makes facing content where there's a ton of mobs to kill around you far easier. To be honest, she kind of has to have AoE anyway, considering that she's immobilized when dealing a large portion of her damage. However, the point still stands. You get a formidable amount of area coverage when using her. So if you're in need of a damage dealer who can take care of these situations for you, as you may be lacking some or don't have G on, then Camellya will feel like a fantastic addition to your roster. AoE is also very nice for tacit field farming, so keep that in mind. She may improve your day-to-day experience. Another lovely aspect to this rather insane young lady is that she has access to some very cheap teammates. They perform super well with her too. For example, Sanhua is going to become one of her best in slot teammates when she comes out. That's a unit that everyone has access to. No, you do not need Sanhua sequences in order to achieve this desired effect. All you need is your S0 Sanhua leveled, and you're good to go. Shoot, if all you want from her is her buffing, then you don't even have to level Sanhua if you're good enough at dodging. She offers her a 38% basic attack damage deepen, she can hold Moonlight Clouds for her, and has a ridiculously low amount of field time, and if you happen to have her at S6, then she can buff your Camellya's attack by 20%. You'd also think that our beloved Donjin would fall off upon Camellya's release, right? After all, she's a 4-star Havoc DPS, and her fellow crazy lady is an upgrade over her by quite a bit in terms of numbers. Well, if you consider that Donjin can buff Havoc damage bonus on outro, you can run a really nice dual carry team between them using the 4-star Crazy Woman as a driver of sorts for the 5-star Crazy Woman. Double trouble. These slot-ins are really good for her, meaning that anybody who just starts at the game can claim their free Sanhua and use her with Camellya, or try pick up a Donjin if you're interested. Donjin's actually my favorite Wuthering Waves character, so I'm delighted to see that she's not being completely thrown out of the picture here. Also, consider that this game is still in quite the early stages. Most of the time, the first few character kits that come out within the first major version tend to be quite simplistic. Donjin offers one main buff to Camellya, but imagine in the future when kits get expanded upon more, we could get an even better Havoc damage buffer for her one day. The future is incredibly ripe for her, and it's very realistic to assume that Camellya may receive a dedicated buffing unit at some point, the same way that Jinshi got Jeje. However, I have a very difficult time imagining that Kuro would be able to easily expand upon what Sanhua does for Camellya. The only way that I could think of them making a better support for her teams is by creating a unit that offers double of Sanhua's buffs, while retaining all of her other positive qualities. Considering that Sanhua is literally free, even if Kuro did somehow improve upon her, you'd always have Jinshi's bodyguard as a super reliable Camellya choice. As wonderful as our wild lady is, there are indeed some negatives to speak of when it comes to her kit. For starters, like I mentioned earlier, her movement is restricted. She plants herself into one spot, then fires away from where she's at. While the damage is indeed high, you don't get to move around, which makes you very susceptible to enemy attacks. This can also feel pretty jarring if you're very used to super fast-paced combat. This playstyle certainly won't be for everyone. Give her a good long test when her trial comes out and figure out whether the kit feels enjoyable for you or not. She's the first unit to carry a gimmick like this. The trade-off is that her damage is super duper high, but DPS isn't everything. Especially in a game like this where gameplay feel is so important due to the nature of combat in this game. It won't be for everyone, and that's okay. We will get more damage dealers in the future, and there's no shame in missing out on one broken unit when there'll be plenty more to come. 2.0 is right around the corner after all. Seriously, consider this con. It might not sound like that big of a deal, but I actually think her restricted movement is the most important thing to consider with her entire kit. It's genuinely going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people if you aren't into the gameplay feel of it. It also makes her a bit more difficult to use. Now, I will be honest, Camellya is certainly one of the simpler wuwa units when it comes to rotations. However, the main flaws kick in when we discuss dodging. Because she's immobile when casting out the main source of her damage, you're not able to run away from enemies. So you have to learn how to dodge and time your dodge as well, otherwise you're gonna get cooked by the enemies pretty easily. There's sadly no way around this. You unironically do have to get good if you want to play Camellya effectively. Once again, in exchange for this clunk, you get to have a unit with one of the highest damage potentials in the game. But when you have somebody like Jinchi who can deal nearly as much damage while having a far simpler kit, outside of waifu reasons, is she really worth it then? If you're somebody who does like this game but doesn't really enjoy the harder to play units, you're best sticking with Gion and Jinchi. The Dragon Man will have you covered in AoE, and the Magistrate will just kinda cover you everywhere. Sure, she may end up being the most optimal DPS in many scenarios, but how practical is it actually for you in specific to use her in said scenarios? Plus, consider mobile. If you play this game on an iPad or a phone, then playing well is going to be more difficult for you, assuming that you're not using a controller or a keyboard. We can't have crap in Jinzo. This all begs the question, is Camellya truly worth it from a meta standpoint? She's definitely unique. The kit experimentation is very welcome indeed, but I'm not sure how to feel about a unit that partially can't move. They definitely gave her enough area coverage to make up for her inability to move around during her main source of damage, but you're still vulnerable to being attacked by enemies. We'll have to see how this actually practically feels to use in gameplay. I don't know how badly this is going to affect the true gameplay experience as of now, and plenty of testing is going to have to be done. But it's a big red flag, and unless you're the #1 Camellya simp that's going to pull for her no matter what because she's your favorite waifu, I would wait a hot minute before launching all of your Asterites towards her banner. Really give her trial a thorough go. Review multiple guides and reviews on her as the days go on. Give it like a week before you make your final judgment as to whether you want her or not. It's pretty important to consider that she's popular as well, so naturally, hype around her is going to be inflated. There will certainly be a lot of positive talk about her damage in the upcoming weeks, but you really want to pay attention to what people think about her gameplay feel. You should also consider that 2.0 is coming up very soon. Wuwa is most likely going to reveal a slew of awesome looking new units, and it might be a bit risky to dump all of your Asterites upon Camellya's banner without considering the future. Don't worry too much about power creep. From my personal observations, the game seems fine in terms of it. Even the worst DPSs can clear if you have skill or just good enough builds to brute force. I more so say this because we don't really know what wuwa 2.0 has in store for us. For all we know, they could reveal some of the most banger units of all time and your Astarite wallet will be totally empty. Even so, if you simply look at her as a unit on her own, ignoring all the banners around her, the kit is undeniably good. You will absolutely get bang for your Asterites here, and it's incredibly handy that they made her so free to play accessible in terms of teams. Sure, she really wants a 5-star weapon, but that's for every Wuthering Waves 5-star, so I'm not going to hold that against her in specific. The funny pink numbers go high with her. What more could you ask for? She's a wonderful choice for new and old players alike. I just absolutely implore you to make sure that her gameplay is something that you'd actually be interested in engaging with. Regardless, I do welcome the experimentation. It's nice that we're getting another S-tier DPS to join Jinchi, who was previously uncontested. This is a pretty big release after all, and I know that a lot of you are pulling for her over waifu reasons. So, thanks for making a beloved character so high potential, Kuro. Very neat stuff. I look forward to seeing the extensive discussion that's going to surround her soon. I definitely look forward to covering her when she releases, but I'm certainly going to be skipping her on my personal account. While her damage is indeed excellent, I'd rather wait for Wuthering Waves 2.0. I'm expecting us to get some real banger announcements and for us to be shown some really incredible new designs. It'd be pretty annoying to drain my whole Astarite wallet before then. In fairness, the game gave out quite a lot of goodies in 1.0, so if they match that in 2.0, then you should honestly be fine Asterites-wise, even if you do pull for Camellya. Regardless, my Wuthering Waves luck is somewhat shaky, so better to be safe when it comes to the oh-so-vicious 50-50. The second half is featuring a rerun for a character that was literally free like an update ago. and a character that most people already have, so realistically, stockpiling Asterites during 1.4 second half should be easy enough. Even so, you can never be too cautious with your funds. But what do you think about Camellya? Are you pulling for her without a shadow of a doubt? Or are you perhaps second-guessing her for certain reasons? Let me know down below in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hopefully this video was able to tell you Camellya's biggest pros and cons. This has been Juice, signing out, and if they add a crazy Havoc woman healer, then we could have a triple Insaniac, Maniac, Brainiac, Havoc team.